Now, 15 years ago, I sustained a traumatic brain injury as I was involved in an extremely serious motorcycle accident. I was not expected to live. However, through my persistence and my determination, as well as the support that I received, I was given the gift of a second life and a second chance, which in essence, was an opportunity for me to start over. Now, starting over, this is exactly what I've had to do ever since I sustained my brain injury. And I've learned a tremendous amount from the experiences that I've had since my accident. So I decided to write about these experiences in these 3 books right here. The first book that I wrote, number 1, it's Second Life, Second Chance, A Teacher's Chronicle of Despair, Recovery, and Triumph. Now, this book is a story that highlights my experiences at the time that I was a patient in the trauma hospital, St. Michael's Hospital in Toronto, Canada. The second book that I wrote, Starting Over, A Survivor's Guide, number 2. This book is a toolkit, and it describes in detail many strategies that would help a survivor, as well as a rehab professional, cope with many of the challenges associated with a brain injury. And then my third and most recently published book, Vendeka's Creed. This is a fiction fantasy novel that takes a very unique look at how our highly technical world might cope with brain injuries in the future. Now, I wrote these books because I wanted to help other people who were going through something similar to what I've experienced. And so all these books are available on my website, www.anthonyaquan-assee.com. They're also available on Amazon. Now, during the past couple of years, ever since I sustained my brain injury, I've had to cope with a variety of challenges, so many different difficulties, and it's been extremely difficult for me. But starting over, you know what? This has been a blessing in disguise for me. It's been very difficult, but I've had help and support. Now, as a brain injury survivor, I've learned that it's so important for a survivor to empower themselves and be an advocate in their own healing journey. A survivor has to join the team of healing professionals and work alongside of them in order to guide their own recovery. Effort is essential, but a commitment to the recovery process is just as important. So in my talk today, I'm going to share with you my own personal experience of living with a traumatic brain injury. And I hope that I can help you understand a little bit more about brain injuries. And I also hope that I can show you that it is possible for someone to start over and make a change in their life, even when it appears as if there is no hope. You have to realize that with persistence and determination, combined with the right supports, one can create a new path to a new success. And this is what I've been able to do. Now, before I continue to talk, though, I just got to say that as a grade 7-8 special education teacher, I cannot tell you how happy it makes me feel to be able to speak to a group of people that are actually quiet. This is phenomenal. I tell you that the students in my class, they think this right to free speech that we all have is not only a right, but an obligation. So thank you so very much. And I tell you what's also really awesome, if I forget anything about my talk, which is what I often do, I can just refer to my assistant right here. And they can tell me what I just said. This is fabulous. Anyways, during the past couple of years, I've always kept this very special quotation in the forefront of my mind. And I've kept this quotation in the front door of my classroom. And this quotation is by a famous American author and cartoonist named Theodore Seuss Geisel. Theodore Seuss Geisel is best known for writing children's books. Books such as Green Eggs and Ham, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and The Cat in the Hat. Now, he wrote these books under the pen name Dr. Seuss. Now, I love Dr. Seuss books. I read them all the time to my students. They're awesome. And the last book that Dr. Seuss wrote, just before he died, is this book right here, called Oh, the Places You'll Go. It's a fantastic book. And I read this book every single year to my students because it discusses many of the challenges and problems that we all face as we go through this journey in life. And the quotation that I really love, it comes from the start of this book. And I say it all the time to my students, I'm going to say it to you. It goes like this: congratulations, today is your day. You're off to great places, you're off and away. You have brains in your head, your feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself in any direction you choose. You're on your own, but you know what you know. You are the guy or girl who decide where to go. Now, I love that quotation because it's telling us that we're in charge of our own lives. And it reminds me that it's my decisions, not the conditions of our lives, that determines our destiny. You see, it's not what's happened to me now, but what has happened to me in my past that will determine who I become. Rather, it's my decisions about what I'm going to focus on and what I'm going to do with that will determine my ultimate destiny. Now, I realize that we all face various difficulties in our lives that really make us feel as though we can't move forward, so we can't achieve the goals that we've set for ourselves. The real challenge for us during these difficult times is for us to be able to continue to focus on our dreams and our goals, and somehow find some way to maintain the desire that's necessary in order for us to achieve our goals. The late, great Christopher Reeve, he said it best. He has an awesome quotation. This quotation, I love this quotation, it goes like this: a hero is an ordinary individual who finds the strength to persevere and endure in spite of overwhelming obstacles. Now, this also is an awesome quotation. I love this one as well. And we can all be the sort of hero in our own lives because we all have the strength within ourselves to face the greatest challenges in our lives and use these challenges to redirect our lives in a meaningful way. And I've already met several of these heroes in this room right now. Now, people become great when they make a decision to pursue the dreams of their lives, and they never give up or quit. And this idea of never giving up, this is very important for a brain injury survivor. You see, a brain injury survivor, they face so much confusion and uncertainty in their life because their life has changed so drastically. So as a result, they have to continue to push themselves extremely hard in order for their life to have some semblance of normality. Now, I want to say to everyone here that it's the unending support that a brain injury survivor receives that will really help them quilt the pieces of their life back together again. You see, it's this type of support and commitment that I received following my accident that's helped me get to where I am today. I had the help and support of many great people, people such as my family, my friends, and some outstanding rehab professionals, just like many of you who are here today, that helped to make a huge difference in my life and helped me to start over. Starting over, this represents a journey of self-discovery for me. You see, it's by living with my traumatic brain injury that I've been able to discover my true self. And I really feel as though I was given that gift of a second life and a second chance. Hence the title of my first book, Second Life, Second Chance. Now, this journey of self-discovery, for me, it began on September 23rd, 1997. This is a very significant day in my life. Now, at that time, I was a grade 7-8 elementary school teacher at a school that's different than the one I'm presently at right now in Toronto. And I was also the coach of the football team at the time. And on the morning of September 23rd, 1997, I'd woken up at the home of my girlfriend at the time, and I was feeling so excited because my football team had qualified for the Toronto City Football Championships. We were going to the city finals. So I was so excited. I wanted to get to the football practice that morning at the school to coach the team. I wanted to get them fully prepared for the championships. So that morning I was rushing around the house trying to gather all my belongings so that I could be prepared for the practice. I was rushing around hurriedly, and then my girlfriend, she came up to me. Even though I was rushing around trying to gather my belongings, she just said to me, she said, "Would you like an egg sandwich for breakfast?" And I just said to her, "No, I don't have time to eat breakfast. I've got to get to the football practice. We've made the championships." Now, she went ahead and made me this egg sandwich anyways, despite my protests. And this got me feeling a little frustrated and upset. And, you know, this was a pattern in our relationship. We never listened to each other. You see, on this day, she didn't listen to me when I told her not to bother making me an egg sandwich. And likewise, I too didn't listen to her when she said, Anthony, sit down and eat the egg sandwich that I made for you. You're going to waste it. Stop being so impatient like you always are. And when she said this to me, I got even more frustrated and upset. And I think I ended up saying something to her that rhymed with the word duck. And then I stormed out of the house without not saying another word to her. And that egg sandwich would remain on the kitchen counter uneaten. And this was a decision that would change the course of my life forever. Now, that exact same morning, my mother, who was a grade 2 elementary school teacher at the time, she was driving on her way to her school. Now, her school was located very close to where my girlfriend lived. And my mother was in a rush. She had to get some things accomplished before the school day started. But as my mother was driving to her school, she came across the scene of a very serious accident. There were many police cars, ambulance vehicles, fire trucks, all surrounding a destroyed motorcycle that was lying in the middle of an intersection. My mother was initially shocked, and then she said some silent prayers to herself, hoping that no one had been injured in the accident. And then she just continued on her way to her school, completely forgetting about what she'd just seen, because she had so much work to get accomplished. So her school day started, and then at 9:30 that morning, my mother received a phone call. And this phone call required her to leave her class and go down to the main office. And this was completely unusual for my mother, because my mother never received phone calls during the school hours. So my mother, as she walked to the main office, she was a little worried and concerned. Who was calling her? What were they calling about? She anxiously picked up the phone in the main office and was horrified to hear a police officer identify himself. The police officer then went on to say to my mother, I'm sorry to inform you, Mrs. Aquan-Assee, but your son Anthony has been involved in an extremely serious motorcycle accident. Now, as soon as my mother heard that, her thoughts flashed back to the scene of the accident that she witnessed that morning. And she knew that without hearing another word from that officer, that accident that she witnessed had involved me. And this is what my mother had witnessed. This is my destroyed motorcycle in the middle of the intersection. Now, the police officer then went on to tell my mother that I'd been hit by a very bad driver, and that I was involved in an extremely serious accident, and I was in very critical condition. So she should get herself to the hospital ASAP, right away. My mother hung up the phone and was horrified. Her hands were shaking. Now, when the paramedics came to the scene of the accident, they said that I was VSA. And VSA is an acronym, and it stands for Vital Signs Absent. Vital signs absent. I wasn't breathing. I didn't have a pulse. My heart wasn't beating. I wasn't responding to any stimulation. I was also bleeding a lot from my eyes, my nose, my ears, and my mouth. All signs of a serious brain damage. So the paramedics had to rush me very quickly to the closest hospital. And this hospital, though, was only a community hospital, and they weren't equipped to deal with the extent of the injuries that I sustained. So I then had to be airlifted by helicopter to St. Michael's Hospital in downtown Toronto. This is St. Michael's Hospital. This is the main trauma center that serves Toronto and the surrounding regions. And it's here at this hospital that I underwent numerous life-saving surgeries. You see, not only was I in a very deep coma, I was in a coma for 2 weeks, but I also sustained numerous life-threatening internal injuries, and this required numerous surgeries. So the first surgery that I had to undergo was neurosurgery. You see, I badly damaged my brain. I sustained a very severe brain injury. and my brain was swelling tremendously inside my skull. And as you might know, the skull does not expand to accommodate the increase in size of a brain that's swelling. So if one's brain continues to swell, it's eventually going to get crushed by the skull and the person will die. So the neurosurgeons were desperate to reduce the swelling in my brain, so they had to open up my whole skull in order to relieve the pressure on my brain. They also had to put some tubes into my brain in order to drain out all the blood and cerebral spinal fluid that was contributing to the swelling. Now, thankfully, the surgery was successful. But the surgeons knew that they weren't finished, because I then had to go for open heart surgery. You see, I badly damaged my heart as well as my lungs. All the bones in my chest had been broken from the crash. And the broken pieces of bone cut through my heart as well as my lungs, badly injuring them. Now, the heart surgeon told me that when he'd opened up my chest, I was only 5 heartbeats away from death. You see, I completely torn the, I can't see it from here, but I should have my glasses.
Yep.
But I completely torn the aortic arch. And the aortic arch is part of the aorta, and it's the main artery coming out of the heart. And so when blood is pumped through the heart, it goes through the aortic valve, into the aortic arch, and then in the aorta off to the rest of the body. I completely torn that, completely transected that and cut that. So the heart surgeon very quickly had to place a Dacron graft, which is a synthetic man-made tube, around the aorta in order to hold it together. Now, I'd also badly damaged the aortic valve. And the aortic valve is right here, my eyes are working with me. And the aortic valve is what blood is pumped through to go into the aortic arch and off to the rest of the body. But I badly damaged that, but the heart surgeons weren't able to concentrate on that. They were more concerned about the life-threatening injury to the aorta. So the heart surgeon told me that eventually, when I'm in my 50s, which is about 7 years from now, I'm 43, so if my math is good. When I'm in my 50s, I'm going to have to go for more open heart surgery in order to replace this valve. It's a damaged valve that I have right now, and it's contributing to the heart problems that I'm presently living with now. But they were not concerned about it at the time of the accident. They were concerned about saving my life. And this damaged aortic arch was a life-threatening injury. In fact, this is the same injury that killed Lady Diana 15 years ago. She died in September 1997 as well. Not that I died. Well, I guess I did. Second life sucked. Anyways, so this is the heart surgeon. Now the heart surgeon knew that they weren't finished though. See, I had to have lung surgery. And I badly damaged both lungs, and I also tore and lacerated the left main stem bronchus, which is right here. If I can go on this side, it's around here. And this is the main tube that brings air from your trachea or your windpipe to your left lung. Now originally the lung surgeon, he thought he was going to have to remove my left lung because it was badly injured, badly cut up from the broken bones. So what he had to do is he had to cut through all the bones in my back in order to get at my lungs. And he was able to repair the lungs. And thankfully he was also able to repair his torn left main stem bronchus. The lung surgeon knew that they still weren't finished with the surgeries. I had to have general surgery. And the reason for general surgery is because I ruptured my spleen, which is an organ very close to your stomach. And I also tore and lacerated my intestines. Now, your spleen is your body's storage house for blood, and it's also an important organ involved in the immune system. And since I ruptured my spleen and tore and lacerated my intestines, I was bleeding to death internally. So the general surgeons had to remove my spleen and stitch up my intestines to stop me from bleeding to death. They still weren't finished though. I had to have knee surgery because I broke my right knee and I tore 3 of the 4 ligaments in my right knee. Now, not only did I have to have knee surgery at the time of my accident, but during the years since my accident, I've had an additional 12 knee surgeries because I don't have the ligaments in place to stabilize my knee joint. And so my knee joint is degenerating, it's falling apart. In fact, at my last knee surgery, the knee surgeon told me that eventually, when I'm in my 50s, or when I'm older, I'm going to have knee replacement surgery because my knee is falling apart, it's degenerating. I'm having to have too many surgeries to repair it. Now, they like to do this knee replacement surgery in people who are older because the lifetime warranty on a knee replacement is only 10 years. So when you have a knee replacement, in 10 years, you're going to have another one. So they like to do this in people who are older to minimize the number of surgeries that you have to have. But they still weren't finished. You see, I had to have plastic surgery as well. Not bad, eh? See, I broke my nose, I broke my jaw, I broke this cheekbone right here, and I broke this bone above my left eye. My whole head was swollen, larger than a basketball. So the plastic surgeon had to set my nose and my jaw in place to heal. He also had to place a metal plate here on my cheekbone. And he also had to place screws and wiring above my left eye right here. In fact, I can still feel the screws and wires to this date, right here. So as you can see, I sustained numerous injuries. And I was not expected to live. However, the most difficult injury for me to deal with and live with has been the damage to my brain. The brain injury has changed my life tremendously. You see, when I was in a coma in the Neuro-Trauma intensive care unit, the doctors had a private meeting with my parents, and they told my parents that I was brain dead, and that it was unlikely that I would ever come out of the coma. And even if I did come out of the coma, I'd be a vegetable for the rest of my life. So they wanted my family to think about the quality of life that I would have wanted. And they were suggesting to my family that they might want to have me removed from the life support system that was keeping me alive. Because was it worth it? Thankfully, my parents didn't follow the doctor's recommendations. And I survived. And I'm now able to tell my story. I've returned to my teaching profession. I'm able to educate people about brain injuries. And I'm also able to still promote motorcycle safety, which is something that I'm still very passionate about. What I'd like to do now is just like to show you a short little video clip. In the video clip, it has some scenes of me when I was a patient in the trauma hospital. And so you can get a better sense of my story from this little video clip.
Anthony is an athlete, teacher, and coach, and his recovery from a terrible motorcycle accident has been called a miracle. His story has been shown on City TV, CTV, and has made headlines in Reader's Digest, the Toronto Star, the Toronto Sun, and other newspapers. He had it all. Anthony placed second in the 1994 Toronto Bodybuilding Championships. But that was before September 23rd, 1997, when fate took a huge turn for Anthony and changed the course of his life forever. Anthony's life changed forever after his motorcycle was destroyed by a car that was making an unsafe left turn.
Aquan-Assee was hit by a car while he was out riding his motorcycle. The crash left him in a coma with serious internal injuries. He was not expected to live.
He was badly injured in the crash and had to be airlifted to St. Michael's Hospital, where he had numerous life-saving surgeries. Anthony underwent open heart surgery, lung surgery, general surgery, orthopedic surgery, and plastic surgery. However, the most devastating injury was to his brain, which required neurosurgery. Doctors advised that Anthony should be taken off life support.
Neurosurgery and trauma inpatient
That's a split on his leg. How long has it been, Mom? 8 weeks? 8.5 weeks. Anthony Aquan-Assee, after 8.5 weeks of fighting and suffering and doing well. Say hi to the camera, Anthony.
You look great on camera. Great up close. That includes, you know, what you have about time to gain, especially
That's my father there.
Since 1999, Anthony has been volunteering at St. Michael's Hospital. He gives support and brings hope to the families and loved ones there. By having the attitude for success and aspiring for success, Anthony has been able to achieve a lot since his accident. The lesson that Anthony has learned from this life-changing event can best be described by the words of the great Sir Winston Churchill: never, never, never give up.
Thank you very much. Now, many people who have seen that video clip, they come up to me and they ask me, are you still riding a motorcycle? They cannot believe it. And I just say, yeah. They say, why? What's wrong with you? I always like to make a little joke about it, just say that it's the brain injury. But it's something that I'm very passionate about. And it's my firm belief that if you're passionate about something, you gotta go after it. Even if you get knocked off your horse, you gotta find a way to get on it again safely. And so this is what I've done. Ever since I sustained my brain injury, I feel as though I lost my sense of self. And this is a very common experience amongst many brain injury survivors. And it involves the conscious awareness on the part of the survivor that they're no longer the same person. They've changed so much. This is exactly how I have felt ever since my accident. And it's led to a great deal of emotional distress within me. You know, I've experienced so much anger, sadness, depression, anxiety, a whole host of negative emotions because I changed so much. The realization that I changed so much completely changed me because I changed physically, cognitively, emotionally, socially, in every way possible. And so began my journey of self-discovery. And this is when I was forced to start over. Unfortunately for me though, this journey of self-discovery for me, it began with me feeling like I was doing laps around the anxiety pool because my problems continued to keep resurfacing and keep coming back. And I discovered that I was a very different person than the person I was before my accident. So I was forced to start over. Now, one of the first ways that the brain injury has appeared in my life with some very severe memory problems. This is a very common problem, a common challenge that other survivors experience. Now, the memory problems for me in the early stages were very severe. Like for the first couple of years, I was trying to find out and remember who I was. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know my family. I didn't know my friends. I had to relearn all of this. Like when I was in the Neuro-Trauma intensive care unit and I was awake, I was no longer in a coma. There are many times when my family would come to visit me, I'd have no idea who they were. Couldn't recognize my own family. And this also applied to all of my friends who were visiting me. I had a whole host of friends coming to see me, but I had no idea who they were. Including my best friend, Mark, who I was living with at the time of my accident. I had no idea who he was. So this is what I had to relearn. These aspects of my life, who I was. now, I'm just going to pretend I'm getting a drink. What about when I'm actually looking at my notes? Can't remember what I'm talking about. Oh, yeah. Yes, memory problems. Anyways. Okay, so anyway, so I got these serious memory problems, and I'm having to relearn all this. And I'm gonna get another drink. Oh yeah, that's what I was talking about, memory problems. So anyways, I've got these serious memory problems. I'm trying to relearn who I was. I'm transferred to a rehab hospital. I'd spent 2 months in the Neuro-Trauma intensive care unit. And then I was transferred to the main neurological floor. So in that trauma hospital, I spent 3 months. Transferred to a neuro rehab hospital, and I was there for many months. And at the neuro rehab hospital, the memory problems persisted. Not only did I have the major memory problems, but some very severe emotional problems. And it was at this rehab hospital that I was involved in a variety of therapies. I was involved in occupational therapy, physiotherapy, speech therapy, psychology, social work, and recreational therapy. So I had all these therapy classes to go to. So for me, it was like going back to school. I had all these therapy classes to attend. Now back then, I was confined to a wheelchair. And there was no way I'd be able to find my way around the hospital. I was in a wheelchair not only because of my injured leg, but also because of my brain injury. So this is another thing I had to relearn. I had to relearn to walk, relearn to talk, relearn to think. That's why it's been starting over for me. Now at this hospital, whenever I had a therapy session, the therapist would have to come to my room to get me because I couldn't find my way around the hospital. So the therapist would come to my room, and as soon as they walked into my room, I'd be staring at them with a perplexed look on my face. Huh? Who are you? I could never remember who they were. Even though I saw these therapists every single day, I just couldn't remember them. I tell you though, one of the real positives with having a brain injury back then is that you got to meet so many brand new people. I got to meet so many new people all the time because everything was new for me. Now, the therapist is standing there, seeing me looking at them with this perplexed look on my face. So they have to reintroduce themselves to me, tell me who they are, and tell me what therapy class we're going to go to. And this is something that happened every day. And I was at this rehab hospital for many months. And it was at this rehab hospital they told me that I had sustained a traumatic brain injury. And this is something that I refused to accept. I vehemently denied that there was anything wrong with my brain. My brain was something so important to me. I was a teacher. There was no way there was anything wrong with my brain. How could there be something wrong with my brain? Basically, what I had done is I entered into a conspiracy with denial. And I denied my problems. But as I denied my problems only got worse. It's only by coming to grips with my problems and learning to accept them that I've been able to find some peace and feel a lot better about myself. Many psychologists recognize that acceptance is the critical psychological factor that's involved in successfully adjusting to and adapting to a traumatic event, like a traumatic brain injury. So, I was released from the rehab hospital, and the length of time that I'd been in a hospital, both trauma and rehab, was close to a year. I went and lived with my family, my parents, and I wasn't working. I spent most of my time at home. I had various therapies that I had to go to and lots and lots and lots of doctor's appointments. But I spent most of the time at my home. Now one of the things that I like to do is I like to watch movies back then, because it was a good way for me to pass the time. And so let's say it's a Monday evening and I go to the video store to rent a video. So I rent this video. You know what? That video would last me the entire week. I could watch that exact same video every single night. It was like watching a brand new movie. So, again, the positive with a brain injury is that it saved me a lot of money. So I didn't have to keep paying for new videos. In fact, I didn't have to keep paying for new experiences because everything was brand new for me. So there's a lot of positives. You have to be able to find the positive. Now, as we get this drink of wine, so anyways, you're living with these very severe problems. And the memory problems challenge you all the time. And so you become very motivated and determined to find strategies to help you cope. And so this is what I've done. And that's why I wrote my second book, Starting Over. Because I wanted to find strategies to help me cope with these difficulties. I couldn't handle it. Now, I ended up finding and using so many strategies with the help and support of other survivors and rehab professionals and my family. And so that's when I wrote my book. Now, I tell you nowadays, I like to say that I'm full of BS. Now, what does this mean? No, it doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that. That's not good thinking. It means I'm full of brain strategies. This is an acronym, and acronyms are one strategy that I use that help me so much. Acronyms are fantastic because they help me remember the words that are part of a group of letters. And I tell you, the real positive for me as a teacher is I get to learn so many brand new acronyms all the time from my students. Because this is the language of today's youth. It's like the texting language. Like for example, just a little while ago, my most curious and inquisitive student, his name is Tony, he's a grade 8 student. He came up to me at the end of the school day to ask me some questions. Now Tony, he's a very smart student, but his brain is always ticking. He's always got these questions. And these questions challenge me quite a bit. They challenge my brain so much. So anyways, I invite him into the classroom so we can discuss his questions. And then we brainstorm possible strategies that will help him come up with the answers to his questions. So Tony's cool with that. So he starts to leave. Now just before he exits the classroom, he turns to me and says, "Thanks a lot, Mr. A, B for N." Now when Tony says this, I'm looking at Tony with a very confused look on my face. And I'm thinking to myself, B for N? What language is he speaking? Half the time, I don't even understand what my students are saying. Now, when Tony looks at me and he sees the confused look on my face, he gives me one of these young, adolescent, grade 8 looks. It's the kind of look that says I'm one of the dumbest things on this planet. And I hate these looks. I get them all the time from my students. But then Tony goes on and he sees these. And he says, "Mr. A, dude, don't you understand what I'm saying? Holy cow, do I have to teach you everything? WTF, Mr. A." And now, when he says that, it's like, oops. Sorry, Mr. A, I'm not going to tell you what that one means, but I'll tell you what B for N means. It's bye for now. Anyways, G2G, Mr. A, TTYL. Now, the funny thing is, though, I already know what WTF means. He doesn't need to tell me. I find it really amusing that the way in which my students communicate with me, it sounds like they're texting me. It's a fabulous strategy, though, using these acronyms because they help me remember so much. Acronyms are referred to as an internal memory strategy because there's something that we have inside ourselves. They're a mnemonic strategy. They're a mental trick that we can use to help us remember things. Now, we have internal memory strategies. We also have external memory strategies. External memory strategies are those strategies that are external to our body. Things such as a calendar or a note to ourselves or a assistive device. These are all external to our body, and they can also be used to help ourselves. Now, I've got so many strategies. I'm so obsessive with them. I've got internal memory strategies. I have external memory strategies. I've got strategies coming out of the yin-yang I'm using so much. all the time. And probably the most important tool, the most important strategy that I use, and I never leave home without it. And I know that sort of sounds like the American Express commercial, but it's not. It's from my iPhone. My iPhone is like my brain's external hard drive. It enables me to remember so much. It has a to-do list. It has a monthly calendar. It has a programmable alarm that I can program to ring to remind me of different things that I need to remember at different times. It's fantastic. So I can program my iPhone to ring to remind me that I've got a staff meeting at work on a certain day at a certain time. And I am not going to forget that staff meeting. In fact, I'll probably be the first person at the staff meeting. I can also program my iPhone to ring to remind me to call one of my students' parents in the evening. So I may be at home and I'm with my wife, Jen. Jen's right here, she's videotaping. Say hi to the Scranton crowd, Jen. So Jen and I are at home, we're watching TV, and suddenly my iPhone rings. I look at it. Oh my goodness, I forgot about that. Jen, please press pause the show. I want to see it, but I've got to make this call. I have to make this call to the student's parents. And I have all my students' contact information in here, so it's no problem. I make the call, and I haven't forgotten. I can also program my iPhone to ring to remind me to collect a particular homework assignment from a student that's forgotten to hand it in. So in the morning, my students are walking into class, my iPhone rings. I look at the iPhone, and it reminds me that I've got to get this homework assignment. So I do not forget to ask the student for the homework assignment. So this is a fantastic strategy. It helps me so much. And I tell you, my students, they're very aware of how much it helps me because they hear it ringing all the time. They know how much I use it. In fact, they've got this joke amongst themselves that whenever they hear it ringing, they all shout out in unison, "Mr. A, you've got another reminder." And so they know how much I use it and how much it helps me. And it helps me so much with my cognitive challenges. It's fantastic. You know what? This also has become an incredible behavior management tool for me in the classroom. This is fantastic. Example, let's say I've given my students the instructions to work quietly at their desk on a particular assignment. So they're supposed to be working quietly, that's the expectation. But I've got this student at the back, a grade 8 boy, his name's Khalid, and he always doesn't follow instructions. He fools around all the time. And he ends up distracting everybody that's sitting around him. No one's getting any learning done. No work is getting accomplished. Ever since I got my iPhone, I found it very easy to deal with this problem. All I need to do is I just need to get up, and then I walk to an area of the classroom where there's an unobstructed line of sight between myself and Khalid. So Khalid could see me if he wanted to, but he never does because he's too busy fooling around all the time. But that's okay. I don't need to say anything to him. I just reach quietly into my pocket, take out my iPhone, and I'm pretending I'm looking for some information, which is what I often do. And then as I'm doing that, I then tap on the iPhone, just loudly enough for Khalid to hear. When Khalid looks up, he hears that tap, and he sees me standing there with my iPhone, he shuts up right away. He shuts up right away because he knows exactly what that means. He knows that if I enter his name in my iPhone and I alarm it, I will not forget to call his parents in the evening, and he's going to get it. And this has already happened to him many times, so it's a fantastic strategy. Now, I would highly encourage other survivors to go out and get an assistive device like this one, because this will help them so much. I use mine all the time, very obsessive with it. In fact, I should probably become like the iPhone poster boy, because I use it so much. I use it with such obsession. Now, I just want to talk to you about another strategy that I use. It's the principle of consistency. And this also is an internal memory strategy. This is an important way to compensate for problems related to memory and confusion. And it involves developing routines to complete daily tasks and events. Completing tasks routinely at the same time in the same sequence will improve one's memory and reduce your overall stress. So what I've been able to do is I've been able to develop a variety of different routines for myself that I carry out on a consistent basis to help me remember the things I need to remember. Like, for example, one of the first things that I do as soon as I walk into my house, I immediately place my car keys right down on the floor, right beside my bed. So my car keys have this special, reserved, private spot for them. And I will not forget where they are, because they're always in that spot. I also have a special spot for my iPhone, as well as my wallet, and other important items. They all have their very special spot. And they have to be in it all the time. I carry out these routines at the same time, in the same sequence, all the time. This creates some difficulties with myself and my wife, Jen, because let's say she places her purse down. It's where my car keys are supposed to be. Jen, that's where my car keys are supposed to be. That's their special spot. You have to move it. So she moves her purse and then places it where my iPhone is. Jen, that's where my iPhone's supposed to be. It's not supposed to go there. And this goes on and on. She is so patient and so supportive. But you know what? In the early stages, after I was released from rehab, for many years after my accident, I didn't have these consistent routines. And I used to place these important items, things like my wallet or car keys, down randomly in different locations. So I placed these items down in spots without putting any attention to where I was placing them. So consequently, I would lose these important items for long periods of time. And I'm talking weeks. But when you lose things like this for long periods of time, you're forced to develop routines and strategies to help you cope. And this is one way I've used to help me cope with these difficulties. And these routines, they're in all areas of my life. Like, for example, at school, I use them all the time. One of the first routines that I engage in as soon as I get to my school, I walk into my classroom and I immediately go to the homework board and I record all the students' homework assignments down on this area of the blackboard. So this is an area where my students can refer to know exactly what their homework is. Now, the thing is though, the other teachers in my school, they always make fun of me and make jokes about how rigid I am with my routines. Because I have to carry out these same routines at the same time, in the same sequence, every single day. Now they know I sustained a brain injury, but they don't really know and understand brain injuries that well, because it's an invisible disability. So they continue to make jokes, and they make fun about it, and they say how anal I am with these routines. And I tell you though, it doesn't serve me very well to have a last name like Aquan-Assee when I have to be so anal with my routines. So you end up being the butt of so many jokes. Another strategy that I use is using these Post-it notes. These are a fantastic strategy. I love them. They're a great visual reminder for me, a visual cue. And I've got this real obsession with these Post-it notes. I've got these Post-it notes plastered all over my home, my wall at home to help me remember things. They're plastered all over my bathroom mirror to help me remember when to take medication, or whether I have taken medication. When do I have certain upcoming hospital tests? I've got the Post-it notes plastered all over my wall at classroom. In the classroom to help me remember important items like who's the student helper, important projects that we're working on, parent-teacher meetings. They're also plastered all over my textbooks to help me remember to teach important concepts, because they're a great visual cue. Now, I know I've got this real obsession, and I just want to show you this one bag. This is just my bag of Post-it notes here. And it's all full of Post-it notes, and I've got many other bags at home. I just couldn't bring them all because then I'd have to have another suitcase to come here. And US Airways, they charge you an extra $25 and $35 for every suitcase they're after, so I couldn't bring them all. But I wanted to show you something because I love them so much. Like, these are the standard Post-it notes. These ones that come in the shape of the square. But they also come in so many different colors. And I've got every color in them. I've got the light blue, I've got the purple, I've got the pink, I've got the dark blue, and I've also got ones from earlier this morning, from Disability Rights Network, these white ones. These are fantastic. But the Post-it notes, they also come in different sizes. These smaller size Post-it notes. I love these because these are great to put in my textbooks to help me remember and highlight certain concepts. But these are the standard ones, but these ones also come in different colors. I've got the blue. I've got these pink ones. I've got these orange ones. Turquoise. White. I've got them all. It's a fantastic strategy. Let me show you another one. These baby-sized ones, these are really cute. In fact, my wife Jen would really love these because they're so small and so cute, they're like a little baby. These are so adorable. And I can put them as arrows to direct my attention in my textbooks where I need to pay attention to. They're fantastic. And then you've got the little larger ones. I call these the grade 4 ones. And these are also great. They're great for bookmarks. But then you've also got these Post-it note flags. And these are great to place in my textbooks as well. So I've got every type of these smaller baby ones. And my wife really loves these. Now, when I saw these, I thought, this is awesome. I've got to get these. These Post-it notes, the letter A for Anthony. Fantastic. So I've got the green ones. I've got the purple ones. I've got the orange. I've got the yellow. You know what? When I went and got these for myself, Jen then said, well, what about me? So I went and got the white J, the purple J, pink. I've got so many of these Post-it notes. Now, I realize that I've got this obsession with these Post-it notes. And I could probably thank my rehab case manager for this obsession. Because ever since she introduced them to me, I can't stop buying them. I'm buying them all the time. Now, with every negative, there's always a positive, though. You've got to be able to find the positive. And the real positive for me with this obsession is I get so many positives, especially from the women when I use these specialty Post-it notes. The women think that I'm the most sensitive man. I'm a man so in touch with his feminine side. And let me tell you, I get a lot of positives for that. Anyways, these are some strategies that I use nowadays. I've written about them, many more in my book, Starting Over. These strategies have helped me cope and compensate for my difficulties. So the memory problems that I have now, they're no longer as severe as they used to be. I used to forget everything and anything. Nowadays, the memory problems, they appear in my life, but in a variety of different ways. And you've seen some examples up here on the stage. But, like, for example, let's say I'm with my wife, and it's a Friday evening. And we want to rent a video from the video store. So we go into the video store. And as soon as I walk in, I see this great video on the shelf, so I grab it. And I say, Jen, let's rent this video. And Jen looks at me with a very bewildered look on her face. She says, Anthony, we just rented and saw that video 2 weeks ago. Don't you remember? I look at Jen with the exact same bewildered look on my face. And I say, no, I don't remember. I don't know what you're talking about. And then she says, you have seen the movie. Take a look at some of the pictures that are on the cover. Don't they look sort of familiar to you? I look at the pictures, and then I shake my head. I say, no, they don't. I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't seen the movie. So now, we start a little argument, right there in the video store. Jen's telling me that I have seen the movie, and I'm telling her that I haven't. And this goes on for a bit. Eventually, I get a little suspicious. And then I turn to Jen with a very suspicious look on my face, and I say, well, who did you see the movie with? Because it wasn't with me. And now, we start a little argument about this. And this goes on for a bit. And then, eventually, Jen surrenders. And she gives up. She throws her hands in the air. She goes, okay, you win, rent the video, you haven't seen it. And then I say to her, I already know that. And if you just listened to me at the beginning, you would have saved a lot of time. So now, I'm feeling pretty pleased with myself. I'm pretty smug because I know that I haven't seen the movie. So I go rent it. Then we go home and we start watching it. And then this one scene comes on, looks vaguely familiar to me. So I'm staring at the scene intently. And then the movie starts coming back to me. And suddenly I realize that I had seen the movie. I remembered it. And so it's during these times I have to turn to Jen with a very loving look at my face. And I have to use those 5 also very important words. I'm sorry, you are right. I'm using this line with Jen all the time. In fact, ever since I sustained my traumatic brain injury, these are the 5 most essential words to a healthy relationship for me. Because I forget so much. But nowadays, it's got to the point that whenever I start to use this line with Jen, she just looks at me and she says, Anthony, give it a rest, okay? Don't give me any of that bill. She says, don't give me any of that bill. Not bull, but bill. Now, what does bill mean? Well, bill means brain injury line. Don't give me that brain injury line. So this is how we communicate now. Like Jen might say, Anthony, don't give me that bill. Don't give me anything. And then I say to her, honey, I'm really sorry. I'm so sorry I didn't use any BS with that one. And then Jen exclaims with frustration, WTF, again? And now, I'm feeling really worried, a little concerned. And so I just whisper really quietly and lovingly to her, and I say, honey, I really love you. I'm really sorry. I better G2G-TTYL. Now, I know that sounds like we're texting each other, but you know, when you've got a strategy that works, keep using it. And when you have a brain injury, you tend to be rather obsessive about the strategies that really help you. And that's what's happened with me. And now, though, Jen and I have gone even further, even beyond using acronyms. And I'll show you how. Let's say I've dropped Jen off at the train station in the morning so she can go to work. And so then I cross the street. By the time I'm on the other side of the street, we can no longer hear each other. But that's okay. That's fine. I just need to show her this. 1, 4, 3. And what does that mean? Well, the 1 finger stands for I. The 4 finger stands for love, L-O-V-E. And the 3 finger stands for you, Y-O-U. Now, when Jen sees this, she just does this. No, that's not the peace sign. It means me too. And so this is another fantastic strategy that we can use. Because now we no longer need to talk to each other. So now, not only can I use this when I'm dropping her off in the morning at the train station, I can use it when I'm picking her up at the train station. And I can also use it when I'm at home and I'm feeling a little tired and a little lazy and I really don't feel like talking. I just give her the 1, 4, 3. And she knows exactly what I'm trying to communicate. So it's fantastic. I can even use this to end my emails. I just put 1, 4, 3 and it's done. It's fantastic. Now, this doesn't mean that I don't like talking with my wife. It's just, again, when you've got a strategy that works, you keep using it. And Jen's cool with this, I'm cool with this, so it's great. We've got no problems, but the problem that I've got with this is when my friends see Jen and I communicating like this. You see, my friends, this is my guy friends, they'll come running up and they're like, Anthony, dude, what's with the sign language? What happened? You never told me. And I'm standing there thinking, what? But see, you know what? It's so much worse with our female friends. It's so much worse, because they'll come up and they're like, oh, that's sad. Hearing impairment. You never told us. Now, as you can see, it gets kind of embarrassing. But people don't understand about brain injuries. People can't see them. It's an invisible disability. Because it's an invisible disability, they don't acknowledge it. And so it gets very, very embarrassing at times. But I know that I have to use these strategies to help me compensate and cope, because they help me with my memory problems. And these memory problems, they appear in my life in so many different ways. Like, for example, at school, they happen all the time, which is why I have to use these strategies obsessively. Because as a teacher, I'm not supposed to forget. So let's say that it's a Monday afternoon, and I'm standing in the hallways with my students as they're getting their books out of their lockers, getting ready for their next class. And then my brightest student, his name is Christian. He comes walking up to me. His head is lowered. He's got a very forlorn look in his face. He's very sad. And he comes up and he says, "Excuse me, Mr. A." And I say to Christian, by the way, Christian, he's the brightest kid in the school. He is so smart. And he's coming up to me to ask me a question. It makes me wonder. I say, "Christian, what's wrong? What's wrong?" And he goes, "Mr. A, I'm really sorry. You know the geography class for this morning? I'm sorry, but I can't remember what the geography homework is. Can you tell me, please?" I'm looking at Christian with a perplexed look on my face. And I say, "Christian, that's a good question." Now, I don't want to tell him that I can't remember. So I say to him, "Christian, how about we go into the classroom and think about a strategy that will help you remember?" Now, I don't go right into the classroom. I just peek in, and I want to see that homework board. And Christian then suddenly realizes, and he remembers, "Oh, yes, you're right, Mr. A, the homework board." And that's why I have that homework board. Not only does it enable my students to remember what their homework is, it enables me, their teacher. Now, Christian, he's a really smart student. He's another strategy that I use. As a teacher, you got to be able to identify your bright students because they can help you a lot. Now, Christian helps me so much with so many different subjects. For example, history. I find history to be a very difficult subject to remember. It's difficult for me to remember these important historical dates and periods because they're not in the forefront of my mind. And I can only remember something when I go over and rehearse it obsessively over and over again. And so let's say I'm having a history discussion with my class. And then my most curious and inquisitive student, Tony, he raises his hand in the air. As soon as I see Tony's hand go there, I start to get a little worried. I call upon him. I say, "Yes, Tony." And Tony then says, "Yes, Mr. A, I'm really sorry. But you know the American Revolution that we've been studying?" And when he says this to me, I'm getting even a little more worried now. And then I say to him, "Yeah, what about it, Tony?" And Tony says, "Mr. A, I'm so sorry, but can you tell me when the American Revolution took place? Because I can't find it in my notes. I thought it was in my notes, but it's not there. Can you tell me, please?" Now, when Tony asks me this, I get a surge of anxiety going through me because I can't remember when the American Revolution took place either. So, us teachers, we don't like to be asked a question that we don't know the answer. So we throw it back to the student. So I throw it back to Tony and say, "Tony, did you not do your history homework last night? Because if you did your history homework last night, you'd know exactly when the American Revolution took place." Now, it's at this point, I'm racking my brains, trying to come up with the answer, but it's not coming to me. So I then throw the question out to the whole class. I say, "Is there anybody in the class that would like to help Tony with this question here? Because apparently he didn't do his history homework last night." And sure enough, my brightest student, Christian, raises his hand in the air. And as soon as I see Christian's hand go up in the air, I think to myself, "Thank God. Thank you, Lord." And so I call upon Christian. I say, "Yes, Christian." Now, Christian, he's so high achieving. He stands up and he goes, "Yes, Mr. A. The American Revolution, also known as the War of Independence. It took place between the years of 1775 and 1783. And during this time, Mr. A, the 13 colonies, which were formerly part of the British Empire, they rebelled against Britain. And then, Mr. A, when the peace treaties were finally signed, the American colonies achieved their independence. And thus, a new country was born called the United States of America." Now, as Christian's saying this to the class, I'm thinking to myself, thank God he's in my class. Thank you, Lord. And then I turn to Christian, I say, that's fantastic work, you're absolutely correct. Now Christian, can you come up to the blackboard and write all this stuff down so the rest of the class can have it? And write it in big letters though, in big letters, okay? So everyone can see it. Now the actual reason I say to write it like that is because I want to take a picture of it with my iPhone. I want to Google it for myself later. And then I turn to Tony and I say, see Tony, if you'd done your history homework last night, you know exactly what Christian's telling all of us. Don't let this happen again. So these are the challenges with memory problems. But with a brain injury, it affects you in every way. It affects you socially, cognitively, emotionally, socially. Another challenge that many survivors, as well as myself, live with is with emotional ability. Emotional ability is the drastic fluctuations in your moods, ranging from the extreme highs to the extreme lows. So in the early stages of my recovery, I had some drastic mood swings. Very, very high, very, very low. Very volatile. I was either sobbing uncontrollably or I was protesting vehemently with anger. I now no longer have these drastic fluctuations in my moods, but I still experience periods of emotional ability. And this happens all the time. Like, for example, I might be driving my car, listening to some really nice music such as Enya. I love Enya's music. It always means so much. It touches my heart. And then all of a sudden, just listening to that music, I'm starting to cry. I'm crying and sobbing in my car. Now this is completely unlike the way I was before my accident. Before my accident, I never cried. I never shed a tear. But nowadays, I'm a certified crier and sobber. Definitely. Happens all the time. So many different areas of my life it happens. And it happens so much with Jen, my wife Jen. But Jen completely understands about brain injuries. And she knows so much. She knows how to read the cues, the signals, the signs. And so whenever she sees the tears welling up in my eyes, and she hears the sniffles in my nose, and she sees my head getting a little low, she just comes up to me and she goes, very silently, EL? I say, yeah, EL. EL is another acronym, stands for emotional ability. Now, I tell you, she knows so much about brain injuries, but that's now. When we met just over 7 years ago, Jen didn't know anything about brain injuries. She didn't even know what a brain injury was. But let me tell you, she had to learn real quick. I was always trying to teach her about brain injuries. I wanted her to know what I was going through. And I would strategically arrange our dates so that she could learn more about brain injuries and what I was experiencing. So, after we were seeing each other for about 3 weeks, I believe. And I just gone and seen this great movie with one of my buddies. I loved it. I thought it was a great movie, and Jen would learn so much from it. And so I called her up. I wanted her to go see this movie. I was hoping she would say yes, so because she could learn about brain injuries. So I tried to encourage her. I said, it has some of your favorite actors in it, like Drew Barrymore and Adam Sandler. Jen, how about we go see this movie? So Jen then says, okay, that sounds great. What movie is it? So I said, it's a movie called 50 First Dates. Now, Jen didn't know anything about brain injuries, and she didn't know about this movie. So she said yes. I was so excited because I thought it would teach her so much about brain injuries. So we go to the movies. We go to the movie theater, and we're sitting there, and it's great. It's fabulous. But then all of a sudden, one of these very touching scenes comes on. Touches my heart. I'm getting really worried, and I'm trying to fight it off. Tears are welling up in my eyes. The sniffles in my nose. I'm trying to fight it off. I'm trying to keep really quiet, but it's not working. Suddenly, I start to cry. Jen looks over me with horror and terror in her eyes. Anthony, she screams, what's wrong? What's wrong? She's very frantic. I just look at her quietly. Shh. I wipe the tears away from my eyes. I say, it's okay. It's just a very touching scene. It really means a lot to me. Jen loved that about me. She thought I was the most sensitive man, a man so in touch with his feminine side. And let me tell you, there are a lot of positives for me in the early stage of our relationship. Jen thought I was the most amazing guy. But I tell you, nowadays, I can no longer use this to my advantage. Whenever I'm trying to get something from Jen, I'm trying to show her my feminine side or my emotional side, Jen just looks at me. She says, Anthony, give it up, okay? That's the brain injury. I know that's EL. No, we're not going to do that. So, you know, you got to be able to find the positive in everything, though. Now, I've been discussing these problems and challenges that I live with, but it's because of these problems that I've learned a lot. I've learned that behind every problem, there's an opportunity in disguise. I've also learned that it's so important to be able to identify the positive in every situation, because this is an important way to help one cope with one's difficulties. You see, our experiences in life are directly related to the quality of our thoughts. So if you're having a difficult moment in your life, it might help you if you can find a way to change your thoughts and find the positive in the situation. It's only by contending with challenges and problems that seem beyond our strength to handle at a certain moment in time that we can grow and develop ourselves to our highest potential. We have to remember that adversity can bring us to an awakening. Now, I've also learned that it's so important that a brain injury survivor, they learn to play to their strengths. Very often, we go through life and we often lose touch with what our strengths really are. And this is definitely the case when someone sustains a brain injury, because they're forced to start over. I've also learned that it's so important for a survivor, as well as all of us, to become very aware and to acknowledge this scientific truth about brain plasticity, or neuroplasticity. Brain plasticity describes the brain's ability to grow new neural pathways in the brain just by learning something new. So a brain injury survivor, they can improve their memory, improve their attentional skills, improve their brain speed of processing, just by practicing various brain plasticity exercises. And this involves retraining the brain through repetitive and challenging activities. And we have to remember that this idea of use it or lose it, this doesn't just apply to the muscles in our body. It applies to our brains. It applies to the neural pathways in our brain. Use them or lose them. Scientists have discovered now that someone who sustained a brain injury, they can develop new neural pathways, grow new pathways in their brain, even after the brain injury, even in adulthood. So my story, as well as the story of many other survivors that are here today, as well as around the world, this is living testimony, living proof of this concept of neuroplasticity. I've been able to develop new neural pathways in my brain by practicing various repetitive and challenging activities, challenging my brain through various cognitive exercises. Now today, my brain injury has enabled me to become much more efficient, because I've been forced to learn and use a variety of different strategies to help me cope and compensate, and I've been able to develop new neural pathways. So now, not only do I think that I'm great, but there's many women that think that I'm great too, because I'm one of these very rare men that never forget a birthday, anniversary, or any other special day. It's helped me so much. Now, I just want to end my presentation off with a short passage from Dr. Seuss's book, the book that I showed you earlier, All the Places You Go, because it has some great words of wisdom in it for a brain injury survivor as well as everyone else. And the passage goes like this. On and on you will hike, and I know you'll hike far, and face up to your problems, whatever they are. You'll get mixed up, of course, as you already know. You'll get mixed up with strange birds as you go. So be sure when you step with care and great tact. And remember that life's a great balancing act. Just never forget to be dexterous and deft, and never mix up your right foot with your left. And will you succeed? Yes, you will indeed. 98.75% guaranteed. Kid, you'll move mountains. So be your name, Bucksbaum, or Bixby, or Bray, or Mordecai Ali Van Allen O'Shea. You're off to great places. Today is your day. Your mountain is waiting. So get on your way. Thank you very much. so much. Absolutely.
And why do you ride a motorcycle? We can never explain that.
Why? Because it's a
Why?
passion.
It's a passion.
It's a passion of mine. It's almost like my meditation, because my brain is totally focused on one thing. And certainly nowadays, it's staying up. It's staying alive. But it's something that I've been very passionate about since I was a kid. So I never give up my passions. And if I'm knocked off that horse, well, I'm going to find a way to get back on the horse. Anybody have any questions that they would like to ask? Sort of like my class of students. Completely mute. I won't bite. Yes?
What's the one thing that your rehab professionals did that was the most consistently helpful?
They were always there for me. During the really down periods of rehab, my recovery, they were always there consistently. They were a phone call away if they weren't there at a meeting. And so whenever I had a challenge, they were consistently there to help me address the challenges. And there were so many different challenges. There were legal challenges, medical challenges, social challenges, so many different problems. And so they could always, I'd always be able to call them, and they were there and to help give me the supports necessary, and then provide other supports that were necessary if they couldn't provide those supports. They put things in place to help me. And they're one of the reasons I'm here today, because they're rehab professionals. Yes?
The person that did you ever find out who that was?
Yeah, I did.
Did you have any animosity towards them today, or even perhaps?
Initially, at first, I was really upset. And it took me some time to overcome that. But now I have no animosity, because without that accident, I wouldn't be the person I am today. And I love who I am today. I couldn't say that before my accident. I love who I am today, and without that accident, I wouldn't be the person I am today. It's my firm belief that things happen for a reason, and this really helped me become who I am, helped me get really strong. And so, no, I don't have any animosity to the person. I do have animosity, or not necessarily animosity, but poor feelings towards people that are reckless drivers. And poor drivers are not very paying attention when they're driving the road, because your life can change in a split of a second.
Can you describe your memory loss as it pertains to you now? Like you referenced 50 first dates, and they had seen a movie last week. Really, what kind of time delay do you have before you lose some of that information?
Oh, it happens all the time. I mean, it's not as severe. Like, in the early stages, I couldn't remember my friends, my family. I couldn't remember if I ate breakfast. I couldn't remember where I placed certain items. I mean, some very severe things. But nowadays, memory problems would be, like, for example, with the movies, definitely. Jen will say, we've seen this movie. And I said, no, we haven't. And that would be time frame, 2 weeks. If we saw a movie 2 weeks ago, I wouldn't remember it. Various things make it more salient, though. If I look at pictures, these visual cues, they're more likely to bring out the memories. But,
What we did last weekend.
sorry.
What we do last weekend.
Oh, yeah, what did we do last weekend? I don't remember. It's not very good when you're dating someone at the very beginning, I tell you. I can't remember. It doesn't look very good. Yeah, so I mean, like when I go to school and people say, "How was your weekend?" I think it was pretty good, but I can't remember. But one of the things I do consistently is I volunteer. I volunteer at St. Michael's Hospital, the trauma center where I was a patient, because I want to give back to this hospital for giving me the gift of a second life. And since I do that every single weekend, I know that's something that I've done. So I can generally say, well, I did that, even though I may not remember it. But I can say, yeah, I did my volunteer work. But anything else, I don't know. It takes some time for me. I have to sit there and think about it, and I might even have to call Jen and say, what did we do this weekend? And then I say, I'll get back to you. Then I can speak to the person and address what the questions they ask me. Yes, sir.
You said that after your accident and after your stint in the hospital, you had to go back and live at home with your parents. How did that make you feel, or how was that transition to being by yourself
Yeah.
and then having to move back in with your parents?
Yeah, that was really, really hard. That was very tough. I mean, I that was a period in my life where I'd never been so depressed in my life. It was just torturous. And my family, they too were starting to learn about brain injuries. They didn't know about brain injuries. And seeing me there and my bizarre reactions and my responses to simple little things caused them a great deal of stress, which subsequently caused me a great deal of stress. Like, for example, when I was living with my family and my brother would play some music, he put some music on that he thought that I would love because it used to be my favorite music. But the music was so overwhelming for my brain. My brain couldn't process all this information. It's like a traffic jam in your brain. And so all this auditory information coming into my brain, causes traffic jam, and boom, I start protesting, I start getting angry, cursing, swearing, and what the heck's happening here? What's going on? They don't realize that my brain has become overloaded. And so, to answer your question, it was incredibly stressful. I lasted there for a couple months. I don't really remember how long I was there for. Probably, I'd say about 6 months. And then, or maybe it was longer. But then, I ended up moving in with a friend of mine, because I wanted to get away from my parents. And I thought my parents were the reason I was having problems. I didn't want to address the fact that the reason I was having problems was because of this, not out there. Because I always like to say that whenever you point your finger at someone, there's 4 fingers or 3 fingers pointing back at you. And so I had to acknowledge that the problem was within myself. Yes?
How long did it take you to get back into teaching?
I was off, my accident was in '97, and I got back into teaching in year 2000. So I was off for 3 years. To get back into teaching, I had to start off volunteering. And I volunteered with the help of a job coach. My rehab case manager at the time, she arranged for me to start volunteering with the assistance of a job coach to help me in the classroom, because there was just no way I could handle the responsibilities of a teacher. And just the simplest little things like photocopying. Photocopying scared me tremendously. I couldn't understand all these buttons and which button you had to press. And they could really freak me out when the teacher asked me if I could double-side certain photocopies, or if I could do multiple pages. Then I was like completely overwhelmed. So my job coach would assist me with that, break it down into little steps to help me carry out these simple tasks. And so I volunteered for quite a while, about 2 years or so. And then eventually I ended up getting back into teaching in a special education class. But it was very, very difficult. Getting back into teaching was a 24-hour-a-day job. That's all I did. Because to remember the information with the kids, I had to go over and over and over it all the time. I was the first person at the school in the morning, even before the caretaker. I was at school like at 5 in the morning, going over my notes, remembering what I was going to say to the students, and going over it obsessively. Had my cards, my cue cards, and some notes to myself. And it's through repetition, doing this all the time, that I was able to ingrain it in my brain, and it became more habitual through repetition. Yes?
What were you said, have you made any memories before the accident?
I'm sorry?
Have you made any memories from before the accident?
Yeah, I have. There's many things I've forgotten, and they come back to me at different periods of time. Like if I have certain experiences, then I go, oh my gosh, this has come back to me. I can remember this. In fact, something just happened recently, but I can't remember what it is. I'll have to go to.
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Neither do I. But to answer the question, yes, I have had some memories come back, but it takes certain experiences where it's a similar experience, and it's like a little trigger that triggers that memory to come out. But it has to be a similar experience, or maybe around similar people. Different cues bring these memories out, but no, not all the memories have come back. I'm still waiting for some more. I'm a little scared of what I might remember. Yes.
Are the things you remember that you can remember and then other things that you can't? Like, you seem to remember passages in a book fine.
Well, that's, you know how many times I've gone over
Okay. Or like in general, you remember to brush your teeth in the morning, but you have problems with the movie, or is it memory in general that's...
I mean, it varies. I mean, some days are good and some days are bad. And
Yeah,
some days you're a lot stronger and your memory, I've had a better sleep and my memory's a lot better. But then other days, I don't sleep well and memories are really, really poor. Like the memories are not there. So in terms of remembering these passages from these books, I've said that passage thousands of times, thousands. And when you do something over and over and over again, which is what I stress to my students, you remember it. So I get my students to go over things with their difficulties and go over and over and over. You have to be obsessive to cope and compensate. So, and not only do I've said this in my talks, I read this book to my students all the time, and I say that passage. And so, again, by doing something over and over again. But with respect to brushing the teeth,
Well, I was just, an example. Like, in the
that's
morning, you get up and you know to brush your teeth.
no, that's a good example, because in the early stages of my recovery, all that was gone. I mean, I didn't have the self-care strategies or ways to manage myself or take care of myself. And I found all these things, I had to break them down, I had to write them down on a to-do list, things that I needed to get done during the day, and if I was able to get one or two things done, great. But eventually, through repetition and doing it over and over again, I was able to get more things accomplished on my to-do list. But my to-do list was the very first thing that I used in my recovery to help me remember things. Wake up, take your shower, put these clothes on. I'd have my clothes already taken out, laid out. Put these on, phone your case manager, different things. And every time I completed one, I'd check it off. And what I'd like to do to reinforce that is that back then, I would give myself a pizza. I'd buy myself a pizza if I was able to complete these things every single day. And then on Friday was my special day. It was my pizza day. And I love pizza. It's my favorite food. So I'd get myself pizza. I'd be really sad when I couldn't remember something, because that means I don't get pizza on Friday.
I don't have a question. It's just more of a general comment. I just really appreciate you coming, and also the book, because I think it, for all of us in the room, it gives us, it makes us appreciative of some of the things that we take for granted on a daily basis. And it's one thing to, read about it and talk about it in our classes, but to actually see someone is here today to represent what it means to be a survivor, and also to appreciate some of the basic things in life. It's very profound that you're here today, and just you're jacked, man.
Thank you so very much. You know what I forgot, and I really apologize? I didn't give you that shout out.
Oh.
Okay, wait, I gotta remember your name. You said, help me here, please help me quietly. Jamaica. A shout out to Jamaica in the front row right here. Thank you so very much. Thank you so much. That's awesome. Any other questions? Yes.
I find that your circle of friends when you get into different disabilities, did your friends stick by you? Was it a tough transition?
I lost pretty much most of my friends. I mean, people, like I've said, people don't understand brain injuries, and my friends didn't understand what had happened to me, all these changes, why I was a different person. How come when I agreed that I would go out with them on the Friday, how come I'd never show up? Because I couldn't remember it, I was never there. And so this continual problem of me forgetting things, to do things with them, they just started just to forget about Anthony and just move on their way. And so my circle of friends got really smaller and smaller and smaller. And I became like a hermit, which I still pretty much am, but I tend to live my life. I like to surround myself with the people that are really going to support me and understand what I live with and what I experience. And I don't have a lot of people like that besides my family and my wife. I've got some friends, but the larger group of friends that I used to have, I had whole host of friends, well, basically I had to say goodbye to them and start over again. But I'm okay with that. Good. Yes.
I know you said you used to be a bodybuilder. Can you still work out like that?
Do I still work out? Yeah.
Yo, I know.
I have to. Working out is another passion. It's something that helps me cope with the challenges of my job. And when I go home, I'm so frustrated and I'm really, really tired. But when I work out, I'm able to re-energize myself and help myself feel better about it. And so it's something that I've been doing since I was 10. And that's 33 years. And so I'll let you do the math on how old I am. Any other questions? Yeah.
I know that it took you a long time to accept what happened to you, and I was just wondering what your advice would be to someone who has a recent diagnosis or treatment in their life, as far as, having difficulty accepting that.
Acceptance is not something that happens right away. Acceptance takes time. It takes a lot of support from people who are close to you. I wouldn't just say it to the person. I'd have to speak to the people, to their loved ones, the people that are around them. There's circle of people who influence them and are in their lives. Because the patience and support and being there and committing yourself to that person, helping them with their needs all the time, eventually will help that person accept themselves and accept their situation, and hopefully they can find some peace with that. Like for me, I wouldn't change it. If you could say, would you rather be before my accident? Before my accident, as you see, I was a competitive bodybuilder. It was my dreams to go to the year 2000 Olympics in Sydney, Australia. I was competing in judo at the time, and I was doing very, very well, and I was actually in training for the Canadian National Judo Championships. And I had really good chances of actually making the Olympic judo team and going to the Olympics. And it's something that I really, really wanted, but I'm no longer able to do that. But I think I've gone to the brain injury Olympics. I think I've done pretty well. So, Did I answer? Thank you.
Any remaining questions? Maybe we can just thank Anthony one more time for his
I just want to say that if you actually happen to find a business card, one of my business cards on your seat, come up and see my wife, Jen, because she might have a book for you. But you know what? A lot of the business cards are placed in the front row. I'm trying to encourage people to come in the front row. But that's what I do with my students as well. I try to get them to see.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for coming out.
Thank you so very much. You've been a fantastic audience. I wish you all the best.
If you need your CRC or CEU sheet, Dr. Dottie in the dark tie would be happy to sign it for you.
You must be a very special person to go through that, because I have one with me that does it all the time. It's hard. I know what you're going through.
Thank you. Thank you.
Her and my wife, the same thing. Mine's memory is not quite as good.
Yeah.
I know it. It's very special.
Thank you. Thank you.
Take care. It was very good.
Thank you. Thank you.
He was great.
Thank you.
My sister had an accident on February 25th, and
just passed?
She's just getting home, and
Does she have a brain injury?
Yeah, terrible. She can't write. She can't read.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't think Anthony can do that either. Anthony couldn't do any of that either.
and they're trying to get rid of, the insurance, the fighting. It's not just the injury that happens.
No.
It's everything else that goes along with it. Oh my God, it's awful.
Yeah, it is awful.
But it was great.
Thank you very much. Best wishes for you and your sister.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
He'll sign for you.
Does he hand sign every book? Okay, because when we got up to the bookstore, I was like, oh my gosh, I thought mine was only one sign. And I kept feeling it. I'm like, this is my fancy.